10 writers from South Africa and the rest of the continent will meet for a week of stimulating literary dialogue and exchange of ideas at this year's 19th Time of the Writer, starting today. Audiences can engage with award-winning writers from a variety of political and social contexts on the creative and technical processes and perspectives which shape their writing. Now, to tell us more about this, we are joined from our Durban studio by one of the writers who will be participating at this year's event. He is Thando Mgqolozana. Thando, good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you very much for coming through, Thando. Now, at last year's Time of the Writer Festival, you announced that you have 4 Swan-wide colonial literary festivals and also started a nationwide conversation on inclusiveness in South African literature landscape. How do you think that conversation shaped the future of literature festivals?
Well, it remains to be seen what the outcome of that discourse is going to be. I think we'll be able to assess more over a longer period of time, let's say 5 to 10 years from now, as the discourse is still happening. As you will have known that the Time of the Writer Festival this year is continuing that conversation by talking about decolonizing the book. But I can say that to begin with, we got people talking and thinking about decolonizing the literary landscape, but not only that, decolonizing the society within which that literary landscape finds itself.
But now, Thando, what are your views in terms of accessibility of literature, especially to young people, school children? Do you think that Time of the Writer Festival is addressing this issue?
We are trying to address the issue, but let me just say that in terms of access, let me put it this way, access to literature is one of the biggest issues for black communities. We've got libraries that are built now in our communities, but there is no relevant literature, by which I mean literature by black writers who are writing for black people. And you don't have a single bookstore that is based in a black community 22 years after the so-called democracy. There's hardly ever any literary activity, by which I mean book launches, readings, and all of that in the black communities. So there's no way that you can easily find books if you wanted to read and you happen to be a resident of any black community, including Soweto, Mdantsane, Umlazi, etc. So access is a big thing. And the difference with this Time of the Writer, for example, is that we are definitely taking it to the communities. We're going to Umlazi, KwaMashu, Inanda, Claremont, and Keto Mena, which has never happened before. And we'll have a full day program in each of those communities. And one of the aspects of the festival is that we've got all the books by the invited authors to be distributed in 92 municipal libraries ahead of the festival, so that the people who are potentially going to attend will have had an opportunity to read those books before attending the festival.
Now, you also took part in this year's program, especially on the theme decolonizing the book. What were your contributions?
So after coming to Time of the Writer last year, the organizer, Tiny Mungwe, approached me to be the co-curator of the 19th edition of Time of the Writer. And my initial involvement was around the concept, what will be the theme, what will we do differently? And so we came up with decolonizing the book. I was involved in getting the partners and all other things, but I would like to say something about the theme. We're saying decolonize the book, or decolonizing the book, and the reason why we're talking decolonization is because in the first place there was colonization, and the basic definition of colonization is that the subversion of the natives, the subversion of black people in our case, and therefore decolonization is the correction of that subversion. It is the reversal of that subversion. That means those who were put first will be last, and those who were put last will be first. And I see that as an act of self-love, as an act of healing, and as a way of correcting things. So I was involved in the conceptualization of the theme, getting the partners and getting writers who are going to participate in the conversation, but also the formatting of the program.
Now, lastly, I'm tempted to ask this. You personally, as an author, you have written some of what one can term courageous and controversial novels, like A Man Who Is Not a Man, which deals with the taboo topic of male circumcision rituals, and also Hear Me Alone, that offers an imaginative alternative to the story of conception and the birth of Jesus Christ. Why are such controversial issues that people do not want to talk about?
Well, I do not sit down to, think up the most controversial thing to write about. I write about the things that I'm concerned about. I write the kind of books that I would like to read. So them being controversial are determined by other people. So for example, in the case of A Man Who's Not a Man, you would know that every circumcision season we read about young men who want to become men, who go for the initiation ritual but do not come back or lose their limbs and all of that. And that was something that concerned me and that I thought should concern society. And so I wrote a book about it. And if it happens to be controversial, well, that's it. There's very little I can do about that.
Well, Thando, thank you very much. I wish we had more time on that. That's a Thando Mgqolozana talking about the 10 Writers festival that is due to take place this week. Let us quickly take an ad break. When we come back, we still have more on books. Stay tuned.